15 PS4 games that desperately need PS5 patches. Backwards compatibility for PS4 titles on the PS5 has been an interesting journey thus far. The PS5's Boost mode offers performance gains and/or other improvements for existing PS4 titles. On the other hand, some titles will receive dedicated updates that leverage the console's power in much better ways, but there are still plenty of games that are missing out. Let's take a look at 15 such titles that desperately need these patches. A quick note before we move forward. Please consider subscribing and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. And while you're at it, please click like if you enjoyed this video. It really helps us out. With that out of the way, let's begin. Bloodborne. It's been almost 6 years since the game originally launched, but the demand for an official 60 FPS mode in Bloodborne remains strong. 4K resolution support would also be great, but it's the higher frame rate, that too running consistently to combat the frame pacing issues, that remains unfulfilled. Make it happen, Sony. Whether it's on the rumored PC version or on the PS5, just make it happen already. Drive Club. It's kind of disappointing how much Drive Club has been buried over the years, especially with its removal from the PlayStation Store. Nevertheless, it's one of the best racing sims available and offers some stunning visuals. Unfortunately, it's locked at 30 FPS and 1080p, with no further enhancements in sight. At the very least, it deserves to run at 4K 60 FPS on the PlayStation 5. The Last of Us Part 2. While The Last of Us Part 2 hasn't received any major patches yet, like Ghost of Tsushima or even Days Gone, there's little doubt that some kind of update is in the works. It currently runs at 1440p on the PS4 Pro, but sees drops in its frame rate, which is strangely more consistent at 30 FPS on the base PS4. It would be thus interesting to see if 4K 60 FPS is possible. More likely, we'll get 1800p at 60 FPS with an option for native 4K at 30 FPS. Or perhaps Naughty Dog is working on a bigger remastered version of the game, like with the original. We'll just have to wait and find out. Concrete Genie. One of the more underappreciated exclusives of 2019, Concrete Genie currently runs at 4K on the PS4 Pro. However, it still lacks HDR and only runs at 30 FPS. Developer Pixel Opus noted its desire to release HDR in a post-launch patch, but it doesn't seem to have been added yet, and there's sadly no update on the same. Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn had quite the array of features on the PS4 Pro, from checkerboard 4K to HDR support. However, with the PC version being released and looking good, even with all the technical issues at launch, it definitely feels like it could be improved on the PS5. 60 FPS support seems a given, but with Guerrilla Games focused on the sequel, we wouldn't hold out hope. Gravity Rush 2. Keiichiro Toyama's last title before leaving Sony, Gravity Rush 2 is yet another underappreciated PS4 exclusive in a library full of them. While it ran at native 4K on the PS4 Pro, its frame rate remained at 30 FPS. Bumping this up to 60 on the PS5 would be great, especially with how fluid the movement and resulting combat would be. Ratchet & Clank 2016. Following Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart's announcement, Insomniac Games going back and updating the 2016 reboot for PS5 would be neat, if somewhat impractical given everything it has going on. On PS4 Pro, Ratchet & Clank ran at 1800p resolution and 30 FPS, so getting it to native 4K and 60 FPS on the PS5 wouldn't be that tough. It's the ray tracing we're really interested in seeing, especially with how well it's done in Rift Apart. Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. Much like The Last of Us Part 2, Uncharted 4: A Thief's End sticks to 1440p resolution and 30 FPS for its single-player campaign on PS4 Pro. Obviously, we'd like to see 4K 60 FPS at the bare minimum, and given how it's an older title, this might be easier to achieve than with the studio's latest title. Some improvements to texture quality and effects, along with 120 FPS support in multiplayer, also wouldn't hurt. WIPEOUT Omega Collection. WIPEOUT Omega Collection runs at an incredible 4K 60 FPS with HDR, high-resolution textures, and other enhancements on PS4 Pro, with motion blur turned off. Turning it on enables checkerboard 4K resolution, which isn't a huge sacrifice. Clearly, it's good, but it can be even better. Imagine running it at 4K 120 FPS, or even 6K super sampled to 4K at 60 FPS on the PS5. It certainly wouldn't be impossible. Shadow of the Colossus 2018. Bluepoint Games' phenomenal remake of Shadow of the Colossus has two modes on the PS4 Pro, 4K 30 FPS and 1080 60 FPS. The coveted 4K 60fps mode is still missing, but given the developer's extensive work on Demon's Souls, other graphical enhancements would certainly be welcome. HDR is already supported, so that's a plus. Final Fantasy VII Remake. While there's no doubt that it's coming at some point, it's a shame that Final Fantasy VII Remake hasn't received a proper PS5 patch till now. The PS4 Pro version runs at 1620p resolution, as per Digital Foundry, but also has resolution scaling to maintain its 30fps frame rate. Long story short, it needs a 4K 60fps patch so that we can relive its greatest moments at the absolute highest fidelity. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. Don't let its aesthetic fool you. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim has its share of performance issues on the PS4. While PS4 Pro doubtless fares better, 4K 60fps is only really possible on the PlayStation 5. The gorgeous animation and backgrounds, coupled with detailed animations, would also definitely benefit from the implementation of native HDR. Dreams. The technology powering Dreams has always been intriguing. While the game runs at 1080p and targets 60fps on the PS4 Pro in one of its modes, frames can drop as more objects are added to creations. If it properly leverages the PS5, it could allow for even bigger projects and expand the scope of its tools even further. Whether 4K 60fps would be possible, at least outside of the campaign, is a different matter though. Gran Turismo Sport. With Gran Turismo 7 on the horizon and incorporating several features from Gran Turismo Sport, updating the latter for PS5 to run at 4K 60fps may be superfluous. Nevertheless, it's still a great-looking game, offering 1080p resolution with 8x MSAA and 60fps, or 1800p checkerboard resolution on PS4 Pro. Imagine the game running with even better anti-aliasing and a more solid frame rate at native 4K on PS5. Again, probably not going to happen, but it would be nice. TEARAWAY Unfolded. Though essentially an expanded port of Media Molecule's PS Vita title, TEARAWAY Unfolded runs at a solid 60fps at 1080p on the PS4. As such, it should be one of the easier titles to update to 4K 60fps, since it's not very demanding to begin with. And besides, if Sackboy: A Big Adventure can look as good as it does on the PS5, then TEARAWAY Unfolded's storybook presentation and papier-mâché style would hold up extremely well. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.